Welcome to Reinventing the Arena, the podcast that guides you through the powerful journey of aligning, embodying, and rising into your most authentic self. We dive deep into the transformative power of doing the inner work because the most important relationship you have is the one with yourself. When you align with your authentic self, you naturally attract the relationships and experiences meant for you. I'm your host, Molly Conley, a coach who's passionate about helping you uncover who you truly are using human design, NLP, and self-empowerment tools. Here we explore the art of aligning with your authentic self, embodying your highest potential, and rising above old patterns to create a life that resonates with who you truly are. Whether you're seeking deeper fulfillment in love or your personal journey, this space is designed to inspire your evolution. Together, we'll explore self-discovery, share transformational stories, and uncover the energetic shifts needed to create the love and life you truly desire. This isn't just about change. It's about fully stepping into who you were meant to be. So lady, align, embody, and rise. Welcome to your journey of self-transformation. Welcome to Reinventing the Arena. Hey there, lady. Welcome back to the podcast for part 2 of my husband's and my connection chart as a 9 and 0 connection. Brad, how's it
Hello,
going?
welcome back. Good. Good to be back.
Yeah. If you guys don't notice, if you're watching this on YouTube, we basically hit pause because we realized how long this episode was becoming. So I knew we needed to break it up into 2. So if you haven't listened to the previous episode, I highly recommend you do so, as that's going to explain, first of all, what a connection chart is, the connection theme, such as like what I said, Brad and I are a 9 and 0, as well as name the other connection themes. I think there's 4 more of them, as well as the 4 different types of connection channels. In that episode, we covered 3 of the 4 connection channel types, but the episode, like I said, was getting so long that we knew we needed to break it into 2. So today, in this episode, we are covering the electromagnetic channels, and I'm going to give you a brief overview of what that means before we get started, even though you might have heard it in the first episode. So in electromagnetic channels, what that means is that person A has one gate and person B has the other. And by doing so, they create a channel. Of course, what each person brings to the channel is depending on how they are actually showing or appearing in that gate. I should also note that in electromagnetic channels, what's fun about the 2 coming together is that they can act as attraction or repulsion in relationships. So what each person brings to that channel does impact on how it's used or even seen in a relationship. So like my greatest example is like person A falls in love with something with person B, and they are extremely attracted to it. But over time, they might separate. They might not like what person B has dealing with in that gate. Or you may have one point of view with one gate, and then the other person has a different point of view, and they're completely opposites. So it makes you 2 disagree, which then causes arguments. So in order to illustrate this better, I'm actually going to share our connection chart for you to view. So like I said, we're going to be going into the electromagnetic channels, and that's this right here, these 5. We're going to actually try to go in order. So we're going to start with openness. Openness is the combination between gate 12 and 22. And I have gate 12, that's right here from the throat, and Brad has gate 22, which is coming from the solar plexus. So gate 12 is called the standstill, or also known as the gate of caution. And so when I say that I have this gate, I definitely can see this in myself. I'm naturally cautious about people understanding me clearly. With gate 12, there is a mood to it. So it's either really, really shy or it might be really bold. It really needs to be in the mood because it's about timing. When the timing is not right, the not self occurs, which is usually frustration or anger. And that's because of 3 things. First, the person didn't want to listen to what you had to say. B, what you had to say angered someone else. Or C, it kind of leans into the I told you so type of mentality. But when the timing is right, this gate really does have a passion and a really deep expression, so much so that it becomes influential and transformational. So for myself, when I dig deeper into my chart, I notice that I am cautious to speak in certain social interactions based on my previous experiences. So anyone with this gate should not be forced. I'm going to say that again, should not be forced into social interactions as they could be easily misunderstood, causing multiple issues, as well as those past experiences are going to show up and lean into those not self themes if they aren't taken care of or if you haven't worked through them on an individual level. Then there's gate 22. This is the one that Brad has. It's called grace or the gate of openness. With this gate, he's under the pressure to express his feelings. Gate 22 has a sense of charm about it, and it really knows how to work the room, but only if it's in the mood. If the person doesn't wait for the right mood, it can push people away because it's acting out of impulse. So, as this person who has gate 22 ages, they gain wisdom on how to share their feelings at the right time, which then impacts the people around them. Listening to others is the name of the game with this gate, as it is also the gate of the left ear. This gate also requires me to go a little bit deeper for Brad and I because we need some more context here. So, Brad, you are sensitive to others, so you may modify your behavior to alter your interactions in a more positive way. And this is coming from your solar plexus, so that means that there's a chance that people pleasing is the theme here for you. I'm going to now get into the channel and we will discuss that at length. No, I'm just kidding. So the channel of
That's a whole
openness,
other
golden
episode.
20, the whole nother episode. We could do it. Actually, we could
People
do a whole
people
episode of
pleasing. That's a whole other
the,
episode. We can do that. I volunteer.
oh, oh, babe, you should not have done that. That will be fun. All right. You heard it here. Brad volunteered. Okay. So, channel of openness. People with this channel are here to have an impact on others through their unique emotional expression, and they can be just as charming as they are ferocious. Together as a couple, we have to be in the right mood to speak, especially when expressing ourselves, expressing our emotions, and like getting involved in any sort of like creative project. If we speak when the mood is right, the other person or other people will hear what we are saying. But if it's not the right time and we're not in the right mood, it can come across as anger and actually push people away. So, in part one, I always ask Brad what he was thinking in the beginning, but I'm going to just tap in here for a second. I notice this working for us depending on who we are around. Like when we are with your friends, I'm able to watch your interactions and listen to the conversations in a way that allows me to speak when I feel comfortable doing so. But in other social circles, I just don't speak up. It's either not something I want to contribute to, or I've been there, done that. I would rather not share or express myself. So, how does this look like, honestly, for you? How does gate 22 show up for you, do you feel like?
Well, yeah, you said a couple things. I mean, yeah, at first glance, it's like, it says that I'm under pressure to express my feelings. Well, it's not just, and that makes me wonder, like, well, what does that mean, express my feelings? But you talked about gaining the wisdom to share them at the right time, and having that and at the right time is how what you share impacts others. Um, so at the same time, you mentioned being sensitive to others, being able to change my message. So I've always kind of felt I was pretty good at gauging my audience, about who I'm talking to. A little bit goes back to kind of the selling thing, but more we're talking about social issues here. So there's been plenty of times where I might be in a group for whatever reason or another that I probably normally wouldn't hang out with, but I'm able to really, I mean, kind of blend in, and relate, um, and have a positive outcome rather than like just exert my strong personality. And it's funny because, like you said, it's kind of a fine line between maybe in a social circle or some people I don't know, that's fine. But if I'm doing that then around my family, well, then that's probably going to be actually people pleasing. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, fine line between those two things. Having good benefits and having it just be a bad habit. So that's why I made the joke about people pleasing. So there's, yeah, definitely two sides to that. And I do have both. I do both of those things.
Yeah, and it's not a bad thing too. Like I have another person had a relationship reading and had this channel with someone that they are dating, and I talked about how gate 22 is honestly like the charmer in the room, and you're able to you as we're discussing this, like you're just pulling out things that we just talked about for part 1. Like you're relating back to the channel of surrender, you're talking about rhythm as well, like being leaderships, all these things, like how you're starting to get the overlap on how this really creates your personality is awesome. Like that's whole part of having a reading done. When we sit here and we explain even just the 2 gates of how they show up for us individually, like this is really great for other people to hear because what I love is it shares stories of how these might show up in different ways and then how it shows up in our relationship. For me, when I see it, like, we've only been together since November of 2019. Like, we're older. People think that we've been together forever. That's not necessarily true, but our connection is really great. But we've learned how to read each other in and before social interactions. Like, this way, we don't isolate ourselves or become misunderstood, causing us to feel frustrated or angry. And when we can let our moods guide us, it will really take down certain walls we've built up, or barriers that we've previously created, not only like within our relationship, but within our relationships with other people, which is really important with our 9 and 0 connection theme. The next channel is called the channel of judgment. I have gate 18 from the spleen, and Brad has gate 58 from the root. And gate 18 has a few different names, like the gate of correction or the gate called work on what has been spoiled. So for this channel, like I said, I have gate 18, and it's a gift and it's a curse. I have the gift of being able to see the faults in everything in order to make improvements. So this is all about knowing how to perfect things. Yet, in order to do so, people have to be recognized and asked before sharing. So, when it's connected to gate 58, there is this pressure from the root to share the correction in order to make things better, but it's usually not the right timing. So, when a person like myself has this gate, any sort of dissatisfaction with something, it is going to be because a thing has lost its vitality, it's lost its joy, and it's lost its gift to all the people it's around, especially the collective at large. This gift is critical awareness at the source of the issue and finding ways to improve, modify, or replace it. And by doing so, this develops a whole new way of understanding the issue. Overall, the gift is needed for the collective as it's focused on human rights and what will keep society healthy and in harmony. I like to also say this is another I told you so gate because most people don't want to hear it and they react in a negative way. Um, but then on the flip side is gate 58. This is the gate of vitality. It's also called the joyous. Brad, you have a love for life which centers around challenging conditioning and authority in order to improve the world around you or just for the hell of it. If you are living your strategy, you are always enjoying life. If you are not, you can fall into your not self theme and it holds you back from discovering what joy really looks like to you. Gate 58 can make you feel desperate to be of service as you want to contribute something of value to others and the collective. When you focus on living a joyful life, you bring and you share curiosity, beauty, and a zest for life that attracts other people to you. You also love, I put like in my notes, but you definitely love to challenge any authority or pattern that keeps the collective from a healthy or joyful society. Now, let's talk about the full on channel of judgment. Anyone with this channel loves to challenge everything in life, yet it is not recommended to share feedback or criticism unless asked. This channel is basically the channel of perfectionism. When the gates come together to form this channel, it acts like a judge and it's evaluating the collective at large and seeing what is stopping life from being so joyful for everyone involved. This comes from testing patterns, comparing what is or is not correct, and what has worked or has not worked in the past. People with this channel keep society on track as it keeps helping the collective correct itself. That being said, this channel can be difficult as we can either point it inward to ourselves or share what is wrong with others all the time. So, no authority figure is too big when it comes to sharing what is wrong and what needs to be changed. When we do so, we waste energy and we can start battles that are not worth fighting for with those who do not care to listen. Instead, waiting to be asked by those who are curious and would possibly take action towards change is how we actually share our gifts wisely and create more harmonious encounters together. This channel is super important overall in human design because its true purpose is related to the purpose of human design, and that is to reclaim or recover the joy and love that has been lost living in a homogenized, conditioned life. Okay, Brad, that one was a big one, and I know I can call out a few different ways. Um, I know I can impact others with Gate 18, and it has been extremely difficult to hold back, how to improve or correct things as I see the potential in so many things and people around me. I don't mean this with clients, just it just means like with everyday friends, everyday family members, how the city does things. Like I do that all the time. Um, how do you see 58 showing up in you?
Well, I think this is as you're saying, talking about those things. I would say the last couple of years, I've probably really stepped into it and stepped up in it. We are talking about, you know, the love for life and like criticizing things that aren't good for the collective and challenging authority. I don't think that's always maybe been part of my personality, but with especially when things have been the way they are lately, that's kind of lit a fire in me to be more like that and step into this. So I can really see that in my life. Yeah, challenging, wanting things to be better for the collective, not being afraid to voice those opinions, no matter what the authority is or what those people are saying. So there's definitely some personal examples in my life where I could see that's been going on.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, this has been something that has really come out. And for you, it makes sense because also your solar plexus is undefined. And so you have a lot of conditioning around people pleasing. So some of the things that I know we're not going to like deeply say it, but some of the things that you're challenging, authority figures, it might even be from long held relationships, beliefs that are intertwined with that. And in our relationship, I see that we have created this balance between what needs to be corrected and what is nice to note. Like we can see this in our competitive nature or how we want to better our health. Like you either have asked or have been more receptive to feedback on your swimming for your triathlons. So that honestly is like a very basic example. But when we think, the world is on fire, whether people know or see or believe like we do, and it's not the greatest for all those involved. And so this channel of us having it together, I know that we could talk at length at how that shows up in our lives and how that impacts the people we care about and people that we've never met. People that maybe listen to this podcast we've never even met before, that how that stuff might be impacting them. So this, I feel like, especially with our move, is going to maybe come out even maybe more for you and having a little bit more firmer ground on using that voice or wanting things to be better and maybe putting it to good use?
Yeah.
So, the next channel that we have is the wavelength. And this, ironically, if you want to see this on YouTube right now, it connects. Like if you see on the outside right here, 48 to 16. So 48 is in the spleen and 16 is in the throat. And I'm just going to note this because I'm going to say it more in the notes further on as I discuss this. But you can see that it's on the outside of the body graph as well as 18 to 58. And these two coming together is a pretty big deal, which I'll mention here in a bit. So gate 16 is something that I have. It is called the gate of skills. It is also called the gate of enthusiasm. If you're a personal friend, you know that I can be very hyper and get very excited on the smallest things, including puppies. So like I said, I am someone who can never have enough skills, and I am skilled in many ways. Honestly, I will say that this is another reason why people might think that I'm a manifesting generator, but I'm not. So those with gate 16 have to develop their skills over time through focus and experimentation to become a master. Eventually, they will make a mark on the world either as a critic, a performer, or by having enthusiasm for living, but it never, ever starts out that way. Here, I look for the perfect way to express my expertise. Now, without gate 48, I can become very self critical, and I think that I don't have enough depth to move forward. So, those with gate 48 can be extremely helpful with those that have gate 16, as they can bring the depth of their skill and encourage disciplined practice. Still, gate 16 brings a sense of enthusiasm to what makes me excited to master. And it's like a leap before you look sort of energy. If you're into tarot, I kind of call this like the Fool card. Um, and then there's gate 48. This is the well, or the gate of depth. And Brad, this is so you. You are born with a wisdom so natural that you rarely see it in yourself until someone asks. Gate 48 has the potential to bring logics, real and workable solutions to the problems of society. So, more than anything, you want to express and share your depth of knowledge to help others and the world we live in. Relaxing and waiting for people to approach you, though, allows your solutions to be shared naturally and with clarity for evaluating, perfecting, and mentoring the skills of others. That being said, without gate 16, you may feel inadequate, fearing that you won't be able to explain your solution or having to wait to be recognized by others before you share your solution. Since it is the spleen, it is the fear that you will never know enough, because I've seen this in you numerous times. Um, you are usually overprepared for everything in order to combat this fear. Now, getting into the full channel of wavelength, this channel has talent, but it has to be earned through constant repetition and gradual improvement. This is about mastery. And then that mastery is shared with the collective by serving a wider purpose that improves the lives of others. So, once again, for this channel to work, it really has to be seen, and then it has to be asked. So, gate 16 carries that enthusiasm to express the mastery, but only when it's connected to gate 48 of depth. When expressed over time and practiced, it will gain the recognition it really deserves. When we tap into the intuitive intelligence of gate 48, since it's located in the spleen, we can connect with skills of gate 16 to have a gradual transformation that leads to precision or excellence. One other thing to note about this channel is that it represents the master and the apprentice relationship through repetition, focusing on technique, mentorship, and teaching. So, Brad, I could talk about this for a little bit, but what is coming up for you now that I've shared this channel?
Well, you kinda made a point about it. The thing that I thought about too is that, usually overprepared. I think that definitely sounds like me, whether it's, for a little team meeting or a presentation or a deposition. I really wanna be prepared, so I can do a good job. Um,
I would say that though, like you are definitely someone that when we first met, I'd be like, you're so brilliant. And you hated hearing that. And
yeah,
I'm
I don't
like,
like
you
that
don't
word.
understand how smart you really are and how like you naturally have this depth of knowledge. Like, I want to double check here if I wrote this down in my notes. Um, I don't think I did. But like an example is I hate trivia because I'm just not good at it, like at all. And Brad is awesome. We'll just say you're awesome. From my knowledge, you're really good at it. And you used to, before COVID and before we met, you used to actually go to trivia nights by yourself, which is not a surprise if everybody's listened to part one, and
Right.
you would win against other teams. Like having the depth of knowledge and the variety of knowledge that you have, that's where wisdom comes, like not just wisdom, but like that's the depth of knowledge, but like your expertise in a variety areas in engineering, for example, in your field of engineering is amazing because you have been mastering it over time. Like we even talked about like how many years have you been practicing, not practicing, working as an engineer, and you're like, "Oh my god, 25." Like you forgot. That is a depth of knowledge and you've been mastering it. You just haven't had the enthusiasm until me coming into your life. I'm just kidding. So, like for me, trying to find an example of this in our relationship was somewhat difficult as well. As I can see how this plays out in our careers, like I kind of mentioned, and our passions. Um, but we support each other in ways others may have mastered or have seen mastered through our perspective. Do you have any sort of idea or in thing that comes up for you when I talk about this channel, for us in our relationship?
It is a tough one. When you said it, it's kind of finding examples, in a relationship is somewhat difficult.
When I think about, like, bringing workable solutions to the problems of society, that you have, and you wanna express your depth of knowledge to help others for the world we live in, and then, how with Gate 16, developing my skills over time through focus and experimentation, it's one of those things where, I feel like this really goes into the next point that I wanna make about how this aligns with the another channel that we just talked about, which is the channel of judgment. That channel, like, the one of the wavelength right here, if you're watching on YouTube, and the channel of judgment, they're formed within the same circuitry, which then can enhance its theme, which is logic. With having the channel of judgment created in our connection chart, we can use the talent from the channel of wavelength to help find solutions to problems, or to encourage, correct, and refine something that needs perfecting through the channel of judgment. So, looking through it at that lens, I can see how we use both of these channels to course correct, things that are impacting us in the society, or to adjust our goals to enhance each other's sense of mastery, whether that's your career, my career, athletics, our health. Um, so that's how I see that. But another quick note too is that out of all circuitry in Brad's chart, he has almost all of the logic circuitry, which includes the channel of concentration, the 9 and 52, which you discussed in part one. And then that also includes the channel of rhythm, which is the 15 to 5 that we discussed in part one. So some of these things can be very difficult for you to see in a way because you've been logically thinking them through up in your head and not using your
For sure.
strategy with your authority with your sacral. So
Yeah.
that is the only reason why I want to bring that out. But I also think it is fun to note that we have this amazing longer channel through logic theme here. Okay, so the second to last channel is called the channel of abstraction, with gate 47 and gate 64. I have 64, which is located in the head, and Brad has 47, which is located in the ajna. So, gate 47 is called oppression or the gate of realization. Brad, with this gate, you are someone who always looks to understand life by relating it to your own experiences, wanting to answer the question, how to make something happen. An example would be as if you had like numerous photos laying out on a table and a gust of wind picked them up and just like disorganized all of them. Gate 47 tries to put them back together to make and share a meaningful experience. When this does happen, the beginning of this process seems really, really easy, but then it can be more complicated as you're trying to make sense of all of it. So, letting yourself remove the pressure to figure it out and trust that it will come into focus will bring these aha moments for you to share. But know that not every aha moment is one to act upon as well. That's what your strategy is for. Overall, this gate wants understanding and clarity, but it must work through its own process of taking something abstract and then learn, reflect, and comprehend before sharing. Since this is an important configuration on your chart, I decided to look a little bit deeper. Here, you may feel overwhelmed by external conditioning that has repressed your identity. Usually, this comes from those aha moments, creating new interpretations of our life experiences. So, then gate 64 is known as before completion or the gate of confusion. And I have gate 64, and I'm under the constant pressure to make sense out of past events or issues that I have experienced. So information and inspiration come from, in the form of downloads from gate 64. So one moment there is nothing, and then the next moment there's a big idea that comes along. Um, it's not unusual to feel or even see something that has come from divine source outside of yourself if you have gate 64. The trap of it, though, is wanting to know how things are going to happen, but it has to make peace with not knowing. In order to move forward with what has been coming through, it is best to use visual tools to organize, learn new concepts, and express the clarity once it all makes sense. Talking in circles does happen for those of us with gate 64, which does bother other people, but it's just part of the process of sorting out these ideas that come through. Um, Learning to wait for those downloads is a really big lesson, but it will relieve the pressure to figure out the how in the end. So, so those two gates make the channel of abstraction. The channel troubles the mind as it can be very inspiring for some people or very confusing for others. The trick is not to solve the problem for ourselves, but to solve problems for other people. So, Gate 64 likes to answer the question how, and it tries to process really complex ideas in a very short amount of time, making everything seem out of place or even just abstract in general. And then, Gate 47 will actually help bring those ideas into focus by allowing the answers to come when the timing is right, not when it's forced. So for Brad and I, our minds are very active. We're trying to make sense of the mental images or like past memories or even dreams to help us make sense of the past and gain new perspectives. All of this that's going on is part of self reflection, which I truly love. Yet it's through using our strategy and authority that we can decide what is true and what is not. As I've mentioned numerous times, that the head and ajna centers are not where we make decisions. This whole experience with the abstraction channel can be a little bit more complex for us, I would say. I can see this how we've discussed, previous relationship experiences before meeting each other, and what we learned from them in order for our own relationship to grow. Plus, when we've had this fascination with something and we dive into the complexities of it, we really do become excited to share that with each other. I also think that since we have that small split that I mentioned in the first part one, this energy can make us feel stuck and give us feel like the pressure to figure things out. And if you didn't see that in part one, it's like the little split here between the ajna and the throat. We don't connect right here. We are just stuck with the head and ajna here, and then the rest of the body all works together energy wise, just evenly flowing throughout. Um, but basically, what we need to do as a couple when we're trying to figure things out, and I can even relate that with some of the things we want to do for the move, is to just have the patience, something that we are trying to practice already, to let it come. So we can do that through like meditating, we can do breath work, we can journal, we could daydream, to help us relieve some of that mental pressure to have it figured out. When I share that, like what comes up for you, do you think?
I'm someone who looks to understand life by relating it to my experiences and answering how, to make something happen. Always ask the questions about how and why. I mean, I definitely, relate to that. More recently, talking about removing pressure and waiting, having confidence that an aha moment will come. I think that's something I'm getting better at in both like work and personal life. Because sometimes that definitely applies in work, quite a bit where I'm, working on a concept and trying to figure out. And I know at some point there's going to be one of those aha moments, and it's about, it can create a lot of pressure. And so, like, I need to learn how to just step back and take the pressure off and trust the process. Like I said, work through its own process, um, taking something abstract and then learning it before sharing it. That's a lot of what I do at work, it's part of my job. But like, even though you mentioned that about when you dug deeper, I think you said feeling overwhelmed by external conditioning that has repressed my identity. I think that's, it goes along with some of the stuff that's, happened in the last several years. Having some aha moments kind of triggered by some books that I've read, quote unquote self-help books and reflection, and definitely had some aha moments and creating new interpretations from my past life experience, learning from those kind of awakening and realizing, a lot of things. So I definitely relate to that.
And I see like also for our relationship, we kind of actually played with this a few weeks ago when we decided to go hang out at that local beer garden. And we were trying to figure out like, okay, let's reverse engineer. Like this is the day we're moving.
Yeah.
And we, I was drawing it out. Like I was writing things down. We're discussing them. We're kind of putting the pen to paper of, okay, this is the day that we need to have the pod dropped off. And this is the day that we need to This is the day I need to clean out the basement because we need to put the shot vac in the first pod, not the last pod. Like
Mhm.
all those things to kind of just work through the how because there's so much going on, between us. Like your life, you're going to go do this for work, and I'm over here doing that. Like us sitting down and actually putting pen to paper, drawing out the concepts, speaking them out, and having like, aha, like I'll share something, and then you're like, oh, I didn't even think about how I want we would work that out. And then you spit backballing to me as we're kind of creating this aha process just by working through it and talking it out together. I don't know if that's 100% this channel, but in my opinion, with how you and I work, I see this one. To me, this one is still really
Yeah.
abstract, which makes sense because it's 64 for me. I'm like, ugh, it's hard.
Yeah.
So just an FYI for even other people that are understanding human design, there are parts that are still hard in your own chart to see and experience. So, we're gonna get to, let's see. Oh my gosh, are we on the last channel? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, we are. Okay, this is a fun one. This is the channel of mating. You heard that right, mating. So I have gate 6 here in the solar plexus, and Brad has gate 59 in the sacral. Um, Gate 6 is known as conflict or the gate of friction. And gate 6 is my personality sun gate. So I'm designed, this is my 70% of my personality. I'm designed to be discriminating emotionally and sexually. So this gate acts like a drawbridge. It controls the flood of emotions through the solar plexus. It also allows whether or not we are open or closed off to intimacy. And I also like to say vulnerability. Gate 6 is the emotional regulator, knowing when to engage or not to in certain emotional situations. This is all because of discernment. And it helps people become more emotionally resilient and find clarity through conflict. I know that I'm jumping ahead here a little bit, but this gate is part of what is called the defense circuit. So there's a bit of a fight in both of us, both Brad and I. And I can be highly defensive and protective of loved ones, as this gate is known for both love and war. When or if conflict has resolved itself, there comes this moment where people can have bonding or connection or intimacy. It can be reached. If that is not the case, this gate will not allow the bonding with other people, whether that's romantic or someone else like a friend, a family member, a coworker, at all. So over time, this can develop into a fear of intimacy, or like I said before, like a fear of vulnerability. The only gate that can break that down is gate 59. So gate 59 is what Brad has, and that is dispersion, or also known as the gate of sexuality. With Brad having gate 59, you are driven to break through barriers in order to create business ventures or sustainable relationships and or have children. Since we don't have kids, I'm going to try to table that one. Honestly, gate 59 can be all over the place depending on the line. So when I say this to people, I just want to point this out. So like here is mine like 6 and the line is point 0.3. So Brad's 59 is right here, gate 59.1. 59, like I said, can be all over the place. Depending on what line it's associated with. Someone can be looking for a friendship before wanting intimacy, and there's another one that might only be looking for like a hookup, a one night stand. In order for this to make sense for our relationship, I was focusing on Brad's line 1 with this gate. So for Brad, you are the action taker, and you will usually make the first move if you have read gate 6 correctly. You desire a deep connection with someone first before establishing whether or not they are someone to be involved with at all. When doing so, it helps you create a bond that is worth fighting for. That includes breaking down, obstacles, facing challenges, like facing them head on, and developing an understanding between two people, even when there is a fight. All that being said, you may need to set better boundaries with yourself and make sure you're not overstepping other people's boundaries. When looking outside of romantic relationships, gate 59 is extremely helpful with collaboration and team building. Here, you can break down barriers between team members and create mutual understanding and cooperation. All right, so now let's get into the thick of it with the channel of mating. I wish that it had another name, but it doesn't. But this channel literally penetrates other people because it can cause people to be vulnerable and intimate with almost anyone at any time. That being said, this channel, if people have this full channel, they can feel like they're misunderstood or misinterpreted. Or even like when Brad and I are out together, if we are breaking down a barrier or being vulnerable with other people, what we might be communicating or showing or body language might be misunderstood or misinterpreted. So here we break down barriers to open the way for intimacy and creating new endeavors. When thinking about breaking down barriers with others, Brad and I have to go first. So when you and I are breaking down our own barriers and being vulnerable and intimate, it's like the easiest way possible because it allows other people to do the same. Typically, people get stuck in this channel name of mating. Like I kind of said earlier, I wish there was another name for it because people want to focus on those romantic relationships when thinking about this channel. And I honestly know that I did too when I was looking at this in the beginning. But this channel really allows us to see which relationships or even business opportunities are worthy of our dedication and our resources. Being patient, making room for growth, and having the understanding that conflict is part of personal and relationship growth, it can allow partnerships and relationships to have a deeper bond that is suitable for long term connection. Overall, this channel is best experienced as we currently have it as electromagnetic channel because it requires patience and nurturing over time. All right, honey, I'm curious what is coming up for you as I share about the mating channel.
Well, maybe I mean back when you're talking about my gate 59 and the desire to deep connection with somebody before establishing whether or not you want to be you want to get involved with them. I mean, it just reminded me of like how we met. I mean, it did happen fast, but that's kind of I think that description reflects like how I feel about creating relationships. And like you said, it's not just you know romantic. It's business or social. It's the same kind of thing. Is like um, making that connection before really feeling if it's a relationship worth pursuing, whether that's romantic or social or work, business, like you referenced. So I definitely see that in myself, and like between the two of us, you mentioned we break down barriers. Kind of it made me think of like us as a couple sitting down across from another couple at dinner, maybe, and getting kind of vulnerable about our experiences and telling your personal experiences.
Yeah.
And you said I could totally see how sometimes that could be misunderstood or misinterpreted by other
Yeah.
people. When we're trying to be open and honest and maybe helpful. Not everybody's receptive to that kind of openness and honesty. I guess that we've kind of developed and become comfortable with in our relationship. The conflict, I've always thought, we don't fight very often, very very little, but I do think it's conflict is good because I mean we've gotten pretty good at it. Like, or it'll flash up and go back down really quickly, and we'll move on, or learning how to argue productively so that at the end, you learn something, and now that issues in the past, you move on. You don't have to deal with that again, and things like that. I mean, I think yes, conflict, and we don't have a lot of it. And I think we handle it really well. It's quick, and we learn from it and deal with it. So
Yeah.
I think we handle that pretty good.
And I would say too, like, because this is my personality sun gate, like I have lived this in all my relationships of being misinterpreted, being misunderstood, and quite a lot of relationships. I would say almost like 90% of my relationships in life. I'm also a 3-5 profile, and I'm going to talk about this in the profile episode coming up. But 3-5s are people that are constantly projected upon and have a variety of relationships, and their relationships aren't long. So, like, friendships start and end very quickly. Like, I know right now that who my friends are today will not be probably my friends in 5 years. That's just how it has always been in my life, and that's part of being a 3. Um, but that also is here for me to discuss the 6.3. So 3 line in 6 is allegiance. So this means like I really need to trust you in order for this barrier to come down, in order for me to become vulnerable. And I think back to our first date and the conversations we had, like
Oh, yeah.
you were probably the only person in 3 years that I was very upfront about what I was looking for. And same thing for you. It was like a no bullshit kind of conversation. And I told
Yeah.
people like saying, "Hey, do you want kids?" No, never. Great, me too. Like, well, what's your politics? It's this, it's that. Like, we got that shit laid out. And most people are like, oh no, don't do that on the first date. That's harsh. I'm like, it depends. If you've been doing this long enough and you're comfortable in what you are as a person, you can do this because it will help see if that person's really worth using your time and resources with, as well as being emotionally vulnerable. And so for me, how I knew like on date one, I was like, I am totally going on a date with you tomorrow if you're available, which we weren't because we got sick. But from food poisoning people, that's another story. But we really created this solid foundation built upon trust and honesty, which allowed me to bond with you faster. Um, and throughout our relationship, we have grown together and separately. That's really enhanced our relationship. So we've encountered some more difficult challenges in our lives or changes, and through patience, perseverance, and focusing on ourselves as well as our relationship, we've been able to move through those with love. And strength because I literally know that for you and me, this is part of the reason why I wanted to end on this one, is that I have your back and you have mine. And that for someone like myself and seeing it even in our relationship, in our connection chart and seeing it as, how this is part of my personality, it's just great. It's just so amazing to see how sometimes human design can really come to life. This is part of the reason why I love what I do, as well as I really appreciate you coming on here and being my little guinea pig to show our relationship in numerous ways in previous couch conversations and being open to sharing from your perspective and being vulnerable as well, because this allows other people to see what really can come out of a relationship or how it even shows up in human design.
Yeah, exactly.
The engineer just stops talking. All right. So here's the thing. Let me talk about even though with a 9 and 0 connection, there's so much that we can work on together and by ourselves. So first and foremost, if you've been listening to the podcast, if you've been a client of mine, if you've had a reading, I'm going to say this. Work on the outer layers. So that is your energy type, your strategy, and your authority. The next thing is to do your own inner work. I have mentioned before with the electromagnetic channels, and actually, Brad and I have discussed this before, even on a podcast a few years ago, about if we would have met 3 years prior to when we did, we would have never worked out. Never at all. We had to do our inner work. So if you don't do your inner work, that will show up here too, where I'm talking about like, oh, these are the expressions, not necessarily at the highest expression. This is like at a neutral level of like, okay, we're going to meet each other where we are and being able
Mhm.
to work together. Even in these electromagnetic channels, like Brad could have been too pushy and said things that didn't make me feel comfortable or make me feel like there's a red flag that he hadn't worked through, and that would not allow my gate 6, so that would be 59. So then I wouldn't allow my gate 6 to be open and vulnerable to then create trust with him. So like if he didn't work on X, Y, and Z, like that's just like an example. Not saying that's anything that you've done, but if we don't do our own inner work, some of this stuff doesn't show up, and some of it you're like, I have no idea why this isn't showing up for me, or I don't understand this part of my chart. That's nothing like me. That could be that you need to do inner work there. And then being aware and acknowledging our differences and how they uniquely shape our relationship is also really important, especially with a 9 and 0. I have all these undefined in one open center, and I can take in a lot of energy and conditioning and things from these areas. And the more I share those with Brad, the more he's understanding of them. As well as notating, like, okay, Brad's really strong in his identity. This is fantastic. I am so happy and proud of him. And I'm noticing this in his XYZ channel, like channel of rhythm or the channel of concentration. And I can sit there and be in awe of him and his uniqueness, right? So those are three things that I would say right now with us a 9 and 0 as an example of what to work on. Personally, if we wanted to, we would work more on the compromise channel a little bit for both of us to play with, and then eventually get into the electromagnetic channels because those might be a little bit more complex. So, overall, Brad, I know you've been here for now two thank you episodes. Um, what insights do you have at all that we could use this information going forward in our relationship?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with one of the 2 episodes, we went through a lot of specifics about how we see different things in our life, so it mainly just makes me say in general, like, now that we've gone through this exercise and kinda know these things and are aware of them, to kinda keep them in front of mind when we're navigating our relationship if something comes up, like knowing kind of reference personality types, knowing each other's type and chart and how we work together, is gonna help, solve problems, move forward, take things on. We got a lot of things to take on, moving to Portland, like you say, there's a lot of things to do. So I think just being aware of these things, uh, and then approaching each other in the relationship, like with that knowledge of how the other one works and how we work together, and how some of these, gates and channels manifest, is just helpful in being able to move forward and grow. It's just like, learning about ourselves and learning about each other, and how, that can help things. So it's just in general, there's a lot of information there, obviously. So it's gonna take some time to absorb and to, to realize and put to use, but, it's good to have. I can definitely see it making a difference, moving forward, and especially during pretty big life change like we have coming up. So, for sure.
Yeah. And then hypothetically, even how we approach other relationships, friendships, stuff like that. So that's great. I'm really appreciate your reflection and the time you've devoted to this. Now, if you are listening and you are curious about what your chart looks like and you would like a reading like this with your partner, I have limited relationship readings available each month. I mentioned this on the last episode. So, what I do is I review the two charts. Like, I will review this person's chart and this person's chart, and then create a reading for your connection chart as well. And when I do that, I actually go through and create a PowerPoint. I write my own notes. I go through various iterations of going through your chart. It's not like I just do it one and done. So I actually sit with it and play in it to figure out what is the most important based off of what you shared with me. But I also still do every single channel like I just did with Brad and I. I will pull in some deeper things, some deeper insights because it's probably important for you, like Brad's personality sun gate and my personality sun gate, since they were part of different channels. We need to talk about those. So then when I'm done creating your reading, I actually record it for you. They're about an hour long. As you can see with how Brad and I did this, like if I was to do this live, do you understand how long this would really be for each couple? So I record the whole thing. You get to download it and keep it for yourself. And then I also give you a written report with majority of my notes, probably all, but I don't know how much I usually put in there, but pretty much it's all. This way you have something that you can watch and also something else you can read and turn back into. So if you want to learn more about these readings, please go to the show notes and find out where you can see that. That would be on my website. And then if you are listening to this episode in August or September of 2026, Brad and I are really full and deep with moving to Portland. And I will not have relationship readings available those months, probably not until late September or early October. It's just going to depend on how we're settled and once we have, moved to Portland. But my hope is to have connection chart reports. So this would be something that's not my notes. This is more of going to be generated quick over the top things about your channels that you can then purchase, but it won't be in depth like my relationship readings. So, other than that, I know this is also coming out in May because this is a part two. I do have something else that's very special to me and dear to my heart. That if you are someone who wants to not just learn your design, but you want to live it, I have something called embodiment mentorship. And applications are open right now for May and they will close at the end of the month. That's because we start a 6-month long mentorship program where you come in and have a 2-hour long human design reading, and we figure out the areas you want to work on for the next 6 months. Then you'll have 2 one on one coaching sessions every month. But the big kicker here is that you have support from me Monday through Friday, either through Voxer or Marco Polo, because, in order to embody your design, in order to live it, we got to talk about what's going on for you in those day to day moments, those decisions, those things that are going on in your relationships, things that are going on in your career. And so we talk back and forth during, those business days to help you move through or gain more awareness of something and move in your chart the way that you have decided you wanted to experiment. When you're done with an experiment, we can even start a whole new one. So that's what I'm doing right now with one of my clients who's also in the mentorship program who started in March. And I have another woman that she recently moved. And so we're waiting to start until May this month. So know that those are available until, like I said, end of May to apply. And I only have 2 spots. With that being said, this is the last time I'm running it in 2026. So the next time I'm opening it is in January of 2027. Okay, that was a mouthful. Well, honey, once again, it was so great to have you back here to go through our connection chart and share examples of not only how this looks like in our relationship, but how it looks for us individually. So is there anything else you want to say before we end it?
Yeah, I mean, I hope this was helpful to people. I appreciate if they stuck with us through both episodes and listened to everything we had to say, and I hopefully some of it resonates.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, honey. I really appreciate it. And ladies,
Yeah.
thank you for listening. And I will be back to chat with you again soon. Thank you, lady, for joining me on this journey of aligning, embodying, and rising into your most authentic self. Remember, the most important relationship you have is the one you have with yourself. And when you do the inner work, you naturally attract the love and life meant for you. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to rate and review the show. Your feedback not only helps more women discover the power of self-transformation, but also helps us grow this community. If you're ready to go deeper and align with a relationship and life you truly desire, I invite you to explore my coaching services. Together, we'll use human design, NLP techniques, and self-empowerment tools to help you break through old patterns and create a life that resonates with who you truly are. Visit reinventingthearena.com to learn more and take the next steps in your journey of self-discovery and alignment. Until next time, lady, keep aligning, keep embodying, and keep rising. Thanks for listening to Reinventing the Arena.